Love, it has been good to me this time around. Things were ever bound to change when it was found. Sugar never tasted sweeter on my lips. My heart is now intact and I can find
good evening and welcome to today's episode of the X-Rad Show, the talk show that really does get you talking on the Xandermonium Network. I'm Xander Gibb.
And I'm Margret Echeverria.
Oh yes, siree. On today's show, the hottest of topics. Our entertainment correspondent Jason Prince joins us all the way from London, and in part two, Rasheed Reno from True Islam joins us. More to come in a mere moment. So you can tweet us. The tweet deets are on the XRAD Facebook show page for today. Feel free to comment in the feed that's around the live video, and we will endeavor to involve you in the conversation. Welcome back to the show, Margaret. How is the world with you?
The world is great with me. I have been having some spooky experiences lately, I think because I've been listening to the My Favorite Murder podcast, and so now everything looks like a potential murder in the making.
Oh, God.
So the other night I was driving deep into the woods to pick up a client, and as I turned the corner to the street where the client was going to be picked up, there was a police line, you know, one of those yellow police lines.
Yes.
Police line do not cross, and then I ended up in this cul-de-sac, so it was a dead end, and then two teenage boys got in the car, and I thought, oh, God, this is how it starts.
Oh, shucks.
So I said to the boys, I said, okay, guys, what's with the police line? And they said, oh, this tree was struck by lightning, and so they just cordoned it off, you know.
I think the worry is that, living in America, when you read all of these things that are going on in the world, even like on Facebook over the weekend, a guy killed this all-black guy, shot him dead, and we're so used to this being forced upon us. It's kind of hard not to be a little wary, isn't it?
Oh, yes. My husband's very upset about that. He can't understand why they can't catch that killer.
Oh, they did.
Very upset.
The reason they can't catch that killer, and there was an update today, is because they found him dead. He killed himself in Philadelphia. They found him, and they basically confirmed that it was him, and that the guy is dead. So that's basically why they can't find him.
Oh, my goodness, I didn't realize that. Yeah, because my husband was upset last night about it. Oh, my goodness.
Right. Yeah, it was terribly concerning, and Facebook are now saying they're going to police their videos a little bit better, and I think so too, because I'm not going to be killing anybody on the show, maybe verbally, but certainly not, in cold blood. But I think that when they, after what happened last year with that disabled kid that got beaten up, and there's been a couple of issues where people have filmed live rapes and things like that, and it really is a worry because we don't. That's not the kind of thing we want to see.
No, heavens, no. That's not the kind of thing we want to have happening ever.
No, of course not. So I mean, I'm really not for policing. I'm not for vetting. But I think when it comes to this, if someone uploads a pre-recorded video, I think they're gonna have to employ someone to start looking through some of those videos, and I think that some of them are gonna get through. We're going to say hello to everybody in the live feed in just 1 minute. We're not ignoring you, I promise you. But it is a worry that we have sickos in our society. But when you think about it, you've lived in England too. We had those things happen in England, but not on the same scale, because per capita there are more nut jobs here than there are kind of in the UK. So when you think about it, on proportion, America is going to have a lot more of these things happening than most places.
Well, also per capita in England, there are more cameras about. I mean, you can be caught on camera doing, picking your nose in England much more easily than you can be caught on camera here.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. There's a lot of video surveillance in the UK that we just don't have here. I mean, we have a lot here too. You can't get away with much, but
yeah. I'm not always sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but if it's a preventative thing, because see, I've always had this ideology. It's like when these people go to the airport and complain about standing in line, and we all hate it. But if you want to be safe and you want to travel safely, then that's the price that we pay. However, if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to worry about. But unfortunately, I'm guessing that there will be a lot of people out there that don't like that ideology. They don't feel like they should be watched or spied upon. And whilst I get that, I do kind of feel that in some ways I don't want the government in my life. I don't want the government in my bedroom. It's bad enough that they take taxes, but some things are kind of needed,
I don't know. I do have a few things to hide. I mean, I have friends who are sworn to remove certain things from my house if I ever pass away suddenly.
Oh, really? You want to give us an example?
Well, there are some, low-class, dirty books that I like to read on certain occasions.
Right.
And, I just don't think that that's anything my mother needs to see.
No. Well, as I'm friends with your mother, don't worry, I won't mention it to her when we chat, as we often do. Because your mom and I share quite a lot of interests, but I won't be telling her about your dirty books, I assure you. So I just want to say a quick hi to everybody. That's our guest calling in early. World, can I take your order, please?
Jason Prince waiting from the UK.
Hello, Jason. I'm sorry we don't deliver that far, but welcome to the show. This is, of course, Jason Prince. Oh, don't be dirty. It's before the watershed. Jason Prince, our guest tonight, he's actually not a guest, he's actually a presenter. He's our entertainment correspondent. He's a TV and radio presenter and a superstar DJ in the UK. And he joins us now live from London to break down the entertainment news. Now, before we jump into the entertainment news, Jason, I want to ask you, what are people talking about with regards to America right now over there in the UK?
Well, people are just absolutely Trump obsessed in the UK. It's like the biggest star sensation in the whole world. And even our own Prime Minister has announced today that we're going to have an early general election. But still, she can't have a whole broadcast herself without something being mentioned about Trump on the other side of the world. So we're totally obsessed by Trump throughout the whole media in the UK at the moment.
And do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? Sorry, I forgot to mention that we have Margret here with us, the usual crowd.
Hey, Margret.
Hello, darling.
So is that a good thing
Hey, Margret.
or a bad thing, do you think, Jason? And is the stuff they're talking about positive or negative or a mixture?
It's a mixture, really, isn't it? And I think that really over here, because obviously we don't have any real say in American politics from our little island over here in the UK. But we feel that America is our Uncle Sam, so to speak, don't we? So we feel that we've got this special connection. And I think that Trump really, to us, is a larger than life character, almost like a celebrity
Right.
And that's how he is. But definitely the media is totally obsessed by him becoming president of the US of A, and there seems to be far more news about America and about Trump than there ever is about our own home affairs.
Absolutely. So why has an early election been called? Because I thought she was prime minister until I don't know, 20 something or other.
Yeah, I don't know why she's called an early general election. It was just came out of the blue literally today. I know that the Conservatives are way ahead of the polls, way in front of their major rivals, which would be the Labour Party, I guess.
Right.
And I guess maybe she just, because she wasn't actually elected in as Prime Minister by the
No.
was she? She was after the Brexit. She became Prime Minister when the last Prime Minister stepped down.
Right.
And so I guess that before she carries on with all these policies that she has to continue with through the Brexit vote, I guess that she wants to know that she really has the people behind her, I guess, and that
Absolutely.
people do want to see her as our Prime Minister. So we will find out in June whether that is the case.
We absolutely will. Just before we jump into the entertainment segment, I just want to say hello to people in the live feed because I don't want them to feel like they're being ignored. Hey to Gina, hey to Joan, hey to Ken, hey to Alexis, hey to Sadie, hi Cassie, if you're still awake. Hi to Connie, welcome back Connie, I hope you're good. Hi to Chet from Freedom on Deck, and hi to everybody else who's hiding out there. Welcome to the show. So we're going to jump right in with the first entertainment story. So Michael Jackson's youngest son, 15-year-old Blanket Jackson. Why would you call your son Blanket? Anyway, never mind. Who is the subject of some concerning rumors from New York, which claims from the New York Times even, which claims he is basically living alone in a 7-bed, 11-bath California mansion without a guardian. Now, according to an anonymous source, the Post writes there's no one to make sure he's even eating right. If you call a bowl of cereal or a Snickers bar a meal, then I guess he's okay. Blanket's 86-year-old grandmother, Catherine Jackson, is his legal co-guardian, but reportedly hasn't seen him in more than 3 months. Blanket's day reportedly consists of a class at his private high school, 2 hours of martial arts practice, and a ton of video games. His 2 older siblings are very busy with their own lives. Paris is currently pursuing a modeling career, and Prince is in college at Loyola Marymount University. Now, the children's uncle, TJ Jackson, is Blanket's other court-appointed co-guardian who reportedly takes turns with his wife to look after the teen. However, they live about 40 minutes away from Blanket's Casablanca mansion. But Blanket wasn't completely alone this past Friday, as Paris hosted a dinner party at the Calabasas home with Blanket and some family and friends. So I want to come to you first, Jason. What do you make of this? And should a 15-year-old be living on their own in a mansion?
Oh, poor Blanket Jackson. At the age of 15, having, 11 bathrooms, is it, in the mansion?
8.
They're all on his own. He's meant to have Granny come down and look after him, but she can only make it once a week.
Yeah.
Uncle Jackson needs to pop down as well and say hi. Crikey, when I was 15 years old, I couldn't wait for my parents to go away just for the weekend so that I could have a party. I don't know about you. As soon as they're driven out of our estate with our very modest 3-bedroom house, I could not wait to fill that house with as many of my school friends as I could and party the whole weekend, and just about have it tidy again for about half an hour before they arrived back on the Sunday. And I used to do that regular. I was terrible. I used to have parties as much as I could, and all along I thought my parents didn't know, but obviously all along they did, and they just sort of turned a little blind eye to it. However, if I was poor Blanket Jackson at the age of 15, at the tender age of 15, when all you want to do is just have fun with your friends, and he's got an 8-bedroom mansion at his disposal, and only Granny pops over once a week, I'm sure he's having a ball. What do you think?
I don't doubt it. But Margaret, your parent, if you had the spare 11-bedroom mansion kicking about, would you and your husband be letting your daughter living it on her own of 15?
Well, the thing is, I mean, look, is he cleaning this house himself?
I doubt it.
Of course he's not. I mean, there's a staff there. There must be a staff there. There must at least be a housekeeper or someone about.
Right.
I can't imagine that he's actually living there alone, but I guess, the housekeeper probably doesn't have any say over what he does or does not do.
Right.
It sounds like he's a video game nerd, and they're not really that worried about him. It
Right.
doesn't sound like he's a party nerd.
Can you?
Unless he's got them all really fooled.
Yeah, can you imagine? Don't you know who I am? I'm Blanket Jackson. Don't you tell me what to do. I mean, I think the kid needs to change his name. If your parents called you Blanket, wouldn't you change? Well, I don't think Blanket is his real name. I just think that was like a term of endearment that Michael had for him. But it kind of struck me today.
Blankets over their heads, didn't he, when they were kids to stop their identity
Right.
being revealed?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
When they were small children. Yeah, I seem to remember that. So maybe, did this end up as his real name, or do you think it is just a nickname?
I think it is. I think it isn't just a nickname. But out of all of them, he looks more like he could be Michael's son than anything else. I know the other two.
I was just looking at photos just now, and he does look like he could be Michael's son. The others certainly don't, especially the beautiful Paris, who's a blonde model, isn't she?
Yes, absolutely. I think it must be, these kids, he was only 7 when his father died. Michael's been dead for 8 years. Who would have thought? And so I'm guessing it must take a real tough, my dad's been gone 15 years and I was a grown ass adult when he died, but I'm still not over it. So I'm guessing as a child when that happens to you. Yes, absolutely.
We are a family with a very strict religion. Being a Jehovah's Witness is not easy. And if the child was raised Jehovah's Witness, he may be actually a very good boy.
Maybe so.
He might not be the Jason Prince of America there, having parties every time his parents go away.
Yeah.
Right, Margaret.
If you're listening, Mrs. Prince, when he gets off the phone or when you see him next, you gotta kick his butt.
They definitely caught up with me in the end on that. Yeah, they knew in the end.
I think they always do. There's always something they find, like a scratch on the furniture or liquor missing from the cabinet. I want to move on to another story because nearly a year after Prince's death, the latest info reveals that the singer's doctor prescribed pills to an alternate name for Prince, and that an avalanche of medication and controlled substances were discovered throughout. Having a technical issue here. Throughout Paisley Park, CVS prescription bottles for Kirk Johnson, who has worked with Prince since the 80s, were found in Prince's dressing room and mirror room. Imagine having a mirror room, a room full of mirrors so you can admire yourself. Over 100 white capsules labeled Watson 853 were found in an Aleve Bayer bottles. Watson 853 is a combination of acetaminophen and hydrocodone and is considered a narcotic. Now, Prince's toxicology screening revealed he had a lethal dose of fentanyl in his body when he died, but investigators couldn't find any prescriptions in his name. It was then that Dr. Schulenberg admitted to authorities that he'd prescribed the oxycodone responsible for Prince's overdose on April 14th, 2016, which forced his plane to land in an emergency when he was returning from a show in Atlanta. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not still over this, but are we surprised at other people getting prescriptions for Prince?
We're not surprised at all, are we? And we had this discussion not so long ago about several different celebrities. The fact that as well is that a lot of them, I don't think Prince was one of them particularly that went clean, in inverted commas. However, a lot of the ones that do go clean, I've noticed that they might be clean from the illegal narcotics off the street, so to speak.
Yes.
They do all seem to have these private doctors and do seem to have access by prescription to a whole array of different substances that they could also be having 2 or 3 different doctors, like what we've discovered in the past, that could be prescribing illegal amounts of a number of narcotics and not even realising that the same thing is being prescribed elsewhere, especially with Prince. You say that he took on, not only in his music did he take on several names, then it sounds like as well in his private life he took on several names as well.
Right.
So if he was managing to fool the doctors into doing prescriptions in different names, then that would make a lot of sense why he was able to overdose so easily.
Yeah, and I don't, I mean, you know, I'm not going to mention names, but I used to hang out with someone who was really famous, and there was never a time when we would go, actually, it's a mutual friend of ours, Jason, there was never a time we would go out when people wouldn't say, do you want some cocaine, or do you want this? And I'd be like, no, I don't. I've got a beer. I'm quite happy with that, because drugs are a shortcut to friendship with a celebrity. But Margaret, let me come to you. Don't you think that doctors should be making sure that that people are not getting prescriptions from more than one source?
Well, isn't this interesting? Here we have a badly behaved Jehovah's Witness, don't we? Or
Yes, I didn't think of that.
And look, the thing is that breaks my heart is that this opioid addiction is epidemic throughout this country. And I believe that the story went that Prince injured something. I can't remember if it was his back or something, and then was prescribed, painkillers, like you do, which are often necessary. And then he just liked the way that they made him feel, and he couldn't get off of them.
Right.
And this happens all the time.
Sad, isn't it? It's sad.
And it's hard for those of us to understand who, I accidentally smoked opium in college. It's a long, kind of funny story. But I discovered that I really hated it.
Right.
And I am not a fan of the opioid at all. And
Right.
I never get cancer because I'll be miserable. Because they prescribe morphine towards the end. And I think I would just hate it. But there are a lot of people who can't seem to function without it because it takes away your inhibitions. It makes you a bit braver.
Yeah.
And you feel more relaxed and a whole lot less shameful.
Yeah.
And we live in a society that likes to shame, and then when you're a celebrity, people point the finger at you and shame you on a regular basis.
Right.
So,
I get it all the time, Margaret. All the time.
Especially in the public eye
Why
like
not
that.
take
When I watched the
away?
documentary about Prince not so long ago, actually, I think it was before he actually passed away, and obviously he was a fantastic musician, but in the first instance, it didn't look like he was really seeking the global, fame that
Right.
he had. I think he wanted to be recognised for his music, but I think that the character Prince that we saw on the television wasn't really the person underneath, which is what you find in a lot of entertainers, isn't it?
Yeah.
Only I guess you get to that level where every day, everybody he's ever really dealing with is only people that know the outer version of Prince. I guess that taking drugs can be the only way that he may be found to live his life up to the expectations of the people that viewed him as this larger-than-life character.
Absolutely, and I think it's an interesting...
this great expectation to live his life in a moral way. He had a really great affinity for God as he saw him.
Yes.
So an opioid would definitely make him feel better about living up to that impossible ideal.
Absolutely. I think it's a very interesting concept. I had shingles a few years ago, and they gave me a Percocet. And because I didn't have a private doctor, You only get like a week's supply. And I could have really easily become addicted to that because it numbs you totally. And I have a very addictive personality. But I know people that kind of like, they pay their doctors to do what they do. I know we all do here to an extent, but when the doctors really work for you, you can get anything you want. And that is a concern because ultimately, just a second.
You could probably pay 7 doctors to do the same thing.
Exactly. That's exactly the point I was going to make.
Particularly in this case, you could probably pay them to turn a blind eye to the other ones as well.
Yeah, and that's a total worry. I think the government are finally seeing that there is this opioid epidemic. And any doctors listening are going to switch off right now, but I don't care. I think the doctors have a huge responsibility in all of this, because if they didn't keep prescribing, then people wouldn't be able to keep taking it.
Right, but then there are people who are legitimately in pain who need it.
Right. But if someone's abusing it or not, as to the frequency, they refill their prescriptions. If you've got 30 pills and you're supposed to take 1 a day, and you come back after 10 days, the doctor should be questioning what is going on,
Right, right.
So I want to move on, because time is as it usually is, it's evading us. So I'm going to skip the next story. So you just have to, because of time, because we talk drugs a lot, and we kind of went a little bit over time on that. I'm waffling, as you know, while the auto cue gets to the point where it needs.
The auto cue heats up, baby.
Yeah, exactly. That guy in the corner has to pedal faster. So reality star and Wheaties aficionado Caitlyn Jenner recently dropped a bombshell in her new memoir, The Secrets of My Life. In the book, Jenner claims that Robert Kardashian once implied that he thought O.J. Simpson really did kill his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and Ron Goldman. Simpson was acquitted of the murders after a highly publicized trial in 1995. Now, Kardashian revealed that his suspicions after Simpson's manslaughter conviction in a second civil trial, when Kardashian said, "I would have been okay with it if they'd gotten him the first time." Jenner also allegedly writes in her book, the implication was obvious that he believed O.J. was guilty. Much of Caitlyn Jenner's transitions of recently being up for public consumption. However, she underwent gender reassignment surgery in January of this year, and nobody suspected a thing until she revealed it to the world herself. The fact that she had not the actual, you know what I'm talking about. I just want to have all the right parts. I'm also tired of tucking the damn thing in all the time, she explains, adding that she was excited to realize she'd be living authentically for the first time in her life. Now, the surgery was a success, and she says she feels not only wonderful, but liberated. Liberated. She continues, "I am going to have an enthusiasm for life that I've not had in 39 years, since the Olympics, almost 2/3 of my life." So what do we make of this, guys? Is this all sensationalism to sell the book? And do we really need to know that Caitlyn Jenner's had a bitch chopped off?
Okay, well, let's say that anybody from that whole Kardashian school of publicity will obviously go straight for the headline in anything, and they're
right.
Geniuses. The whole of the Kardashians are staying A-list celebrities, from not really doing anything that A-list celebrities usually do. I mean, we've already talked about Prince. You can't really compare them to Prince. You can't really compare them to anybody else in this entertainment segment. However, we did skip 2 other great stories to speak about this one, about the Kardashians again, and this would be the one that I'd want to talk about as well. So somehow they're doing something to stay as those A-list celebrities. And one saying about, obviously the reason the Kardashians are famous is obviously the dad was the lawyer in that case and everything. This is why we know them all.
And the sex tape. Don't forget the sex tape.
And the sex change as well.
No, sex tape.
The sex tape.
Yes, Kim Kardashian had a sex tape. That's what brought her to our attention, and the rest of it kind of came out after. What was the guy called?
Yeah, sorry. I thought you were talking about the
Oh, no, gosh. No, thank you. Moving swiftly up.
There's been the gentry assignment and everything. I mean, yeah, this all, to me, everything, any of the Kardashian bags do, it's all just shock tactic, and it's all here to sell books, to sell TV time, and to sell it to people like us talking about it. And by God, it works, doesn't it?
Yeah, it totally does. I kind of think that this is, all of these things are kind of like something to launch product off. Wouldn't you agree, Margaret?
Well, yes, and I also think I love the story because it's so heartbreaking and sweet. I love the story of, the late Kardashian believing that Simpson was guilty. And how, that must have been a very tortured atmosphere in their home because Chris always thought that he did it. Always.
Yeah,
And
she said
so,
that publicly.
And so that must have been such a thing for their marriage to survive that. And I'm fascinated by that story. And listen, Caitlyn Jenner, to be a triathlete is something I just respect the hell out of. And I think she can do whatever the hell she wants. If she wants publicity and wants to sell a book, she was a triathlete. Just let her do whatever she wants. She worked her ass off, and she achieved greatness,
Absolutely. Here's the thing. I've known lots of trans folks in my life. When I lived in London, a couple of my friends transitioned. If you're an adult and you want to do these things to yourself, that's absolutely up to you. But the one thing I can never get my head around is that once you've actually transitioned from being a male to female or a female to male, why then do you have to refer to yourself as trans? Can't you just say I'm a man or a woman? Do you know what I mean, Jason?
Well, that's where it's coming to now. My friend now in the doctor's surgery over here, it's getting to the point where it is you can refer to yourself as a woman.
Right.
Certainly in the health service over here as well. So it's getting to that. And we might be slightly ahead on that over here, but people are actually calling themselves their new gender rather than putting the word trans in front of it. Although saying that the person that I'm talking about is also runs a radio station called Trans Sister Radio.
Oh, interesting title.
So, she does play on the word when she wants to as well. But yeah, I mean, no, good for her that she's finally the gender that she longed to be for so long, secretly.
Right.
I mean, the thing that I found amazing is we didn't even notice, did we, for years?
No.
She wanted to be a woman.
Absolutely. Well, I long to be a unicorn, but I don't think anybody's going to pay for me to have an operation to get the horn added and, all of the multicolored made. Jason, we're out of time, sadly, because we have another guest and they will be coming on very soon. But tell people where they can find you and what you're going to be up to next.
Okay, we've got my big night coming up here at the White Swan in central London. Club Kids Flashback with special guest Nikki French singing her Eurovision song and her big dance version of Totally Gives to the Heart. That's on the 29th of April. If you are in London, come and see it. In the meantime, I'm on Twitter, Jason Prince DJ on Twitter and DJ Jason Prince on Facebook. Keep in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jason. We'll speak to you again very soon.
See you soon.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was Jason Prince. Make sure you check him out. All of his contact information is on the XRAD Facebook show page for today. I'm rushing so I can introduce our guest before he comes on. So our guest tonight is called Rasheed Reno, and he's from an organization called True Islam. And the organization sets out to provide all Americans a clear way to distinguish true Islam from extremism and to unify Muslim Americans on the correct understanding of Islam. The campaign strengthens America's national security against extremism. And we're just waiting for Rasheed to call in now. And this should be... Welcome back to the show, Rasheed. How is the world with you, sir?
Very good. Thanks for having me back.
You are most welcome. You're live with myself and my co-host, Margaret, who I believe was on last time you came on the show.
Yes. How you doing, Margaret?
I'm doing great, thanks. Good to hear you.
So we'll jump right in. Sorry, I thought the conversation between you two was going to carry on. So I was pausing for that. So much has gone on since you came on the show last time, Rasheed. And I wanted to, before we touch on some of the things that happened, for those people that might not know, tell us briefly what True Islam is and what they aim to do as an organization.
So True Islam is a effort by the Ahmadiyya Muslim community that we've launched in order to try and differentiate true Islamic teachings from extremism. And we've gone through and identified 11 points that we believe extremists use to manipulate Muslims in order to drive them towards extremism.
Right.
And on the trueislam.com website, we've enumerated those points with the theological support from the Quran and the practice of the Prophet Muhammad to kind of illustrate the theological background supporting our view on those points.
Absolutely. So I want to clarify a few things, and we did this last time. So because some of the listeners might be new to your organization and maybe weren't listening last time. So as a Muslim and as an organization that works with a Muslim organization, you strongly speak out against groups like ISIS, etc., that claim to be doing the things that they're doing in the name of Islam, right?
Correct, yes. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community is kind of one of the foremost organizations in speaking out against violence in the name of religion. And we've done this since its founding in the late 19th century by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community and Promised Messiah.
Right, absolutely. So, I've seen over the past couple of years a lot more Muslims actually coming forward. There was a group in the UK called, that did a campaign last year called Not in My Name. Why do you think more and more peaceful Muslims are coming forward in order to speak out?
I think the big problem in the Muslim world has been leadership. And, this is something that we in the Ahmadiyya Muslim community have been able to provide through His Holiness the Caliph of Islam, Mirza Masroor Ahmad, who is the head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. He's spoken out many times on against extremism and violence done in the name of Islam,
right,
and tried to illustrate the true teachings. And I think many Muslims are starting to recognize this and organize themselves, whether from within our group or outside of our group, and start to take the same path of getting the proper message together and really start standing up against extremism that
right.
Really, terrorizes not only non-Muslims but mostly Muslims themselves throughout many countries that are war-torn and afflicted through many different types of conflicts that exist there.
Absolutely. Now, a couple of people are we have a very enlightened listenership here, so we don't like to generalize on this show, and we don't like to support generalizations. But for people who are not sure, can you explain a little bit about what Sharia law is and how there isn't an ideology for there to be a Sharia law throughout the United States?
Yeah, so what Sharia really means is Islamic practice, Islamic law, not in the sense of a political law, but in the sense of, practice. Islamic, the Sharia includes Islamic beliefs such as, the oneness of God, belief in prophets, and so on. And also just the daily practice that we do within our lives, such as prayers, fasting, etc.
Right.
The vast majority of the Sharia of Islam has nothing to do with any type of law whatsoever in terms of political law.
Right.
And, a lot of it's been misconstrued, both by extremists within Islam as well as, anti-Muslim groups that try to
Right.
and try to force those onto people, such as blasphemy laws or apostasy laws
Right.
that really have no foundation in the Quran or the practice of the Prophet Muhammad.
Absolutely. Now, would you? I'm going to choose my words very carefully. So as Christians, we have a group in this country called the Westboro Baptist Church, and I'm being polite, even calling them that. And a lot of Christians would say they don't represent me. So when Muslims do express this ideology for there to be Sharia law control in the United States, they don't represent what you're trying to do with your organization. Would I be right in saying that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
And the big question comes in is if they want to do that, then whose version of the Sharia are they trying to implement? Because
Right.
everyone has their own interpretation of how Islam should be practiced. And so then how do you enforce two different viewpoints? And that, raises big problems. And even looking back to the time of the Prophet Muhammad, when in the city of Medina, when Muslims lived side by side of people with different religions, he actually forbid, it wasn't allowed that Muslims could enforce their own religion on other religions.
Right.
Everyone had the autonomy to practice their own faith as they wished.
Right. So it's a complete fallacy that the Quran teaches that all non-Muslims should be put to death.
Absolutely.
Right.
That comes from cherry picking out of verses that are permitting Muslims to defend themselves when
Right.
attacked by others.
Absolutely. I love breaking down these kind of misconceptions because I think since 9/11 our communities have kind of shifted somewhat, and some of the Muslim members of our community have felt kind of pushed out and treated badly, and wrongly so. Since then, because any of my friends who are Muslim would not say that 9/11 was done in their name or any of the acts of ISIS. What do you believe is the most fundamental way we can all work together as a community to move on from these things to make our community stronger?
I think dialogue is very important. They've done surveys that have shown that some 60% of Americans don't know a Muslim, which is an astounding number.
Right.
And that's why there's so much fear and misconceptions about Muslims, because Americans in general don't know any. And one of the efforts that we've tried to do in conjunction with the True Islam campaign is kind of a local effort that we do called Coffee Cake and True Islam, and where we just sit down with people and talk to them over a cup of coffee and really explain to them what we really believe and what True Islam is.
Right.
We find once people get down and sit together and break bread or have a cup of coffee together, everything changes. All those preconceived ideas go
Right.
out the door, and people see the humanity in one another.
Absolutely. Now we have a new administration since the beginning of the year. I'm openly supportive of that administration. Some of the decisions and changes that have been made by that administration have been met with disdain by some of the Muslim community, including the changes that were actually termed as a travel ban. Now, tell me first of all your impression of that, and if you feel it's appropriate for a president to be attempting to protect all of its country's citizens when some are clearly offended by the terminology.
My feeling was that the travel ban was inappropriately stigmatizing Muslims as a threat by just, specifying, countries that were, Muslim majority countries only.
Right.
And it really
Right.
So it was really more of a fear-based initiative rather than something that was helpful and objective in actually doing anything to protect Americans.
Right, but you do know that that the basis of that travel ban that was actually from the previous administration. It was them that decided the countries, and this administration just kind of carried that on. Were you aware of that?
Well, I think it brought it in ways that weren't there before, and I think it did things to it stigmatized Muslims to kind of create more of a fear of Muslims in that sense.
You mean you feel?
I think it's wholly appropriate for them to review the immigration process and the screening process, but I do not believe it was necessary to shut down travel altogether from those countries, as it was really no benefit in doing so.
I think I would tend to.
The previous administration didn't really sanction the shutdown of people at the airports. It didn't get that crazy with the previous administration. With this administration, it got a little nutty, and there was also this kind of vague dictates about how the law should be enacted and what should actually be done with people who are trying to enter the country from those other countries. I think it would have been very interesting if we had prohibited people from Saudi Arabia from entering the country.
Yeah,
might have been a little more.
Absolutely. I mean, in fairness, I would agree with you that travel ban should not have affected American citizens or those with leave to be here legally. I think that was definitely an oversight. But I think that people are very afraid with some of the things that are going on in the world. And I think that some people maybe are a little overzealous with it. But others would say one cannot be overzealous whilst protecting American citizens. And I'm sad that a byproduct of this, even some of my friends who are Muslim have said, how can you actually support that kind of thing when it is stigmatic to Muslims? And it's a concern for me that we learn from mistakes, because every administration is going to make mistakes. But to place an ideology on this administration that they're anti-Muslim, you're not saying that, are you? You're saying that action was deemed that way.
Correct. I think it was, I think that the particular act, order itself was not something that was helpful for the issues that exist with, the stigmatism of Muslims within the country and the increasing violence that we see against Muslim Americans. It did nothing to alleviate that, and I think it actually made it much worse.
Right. I mean, I think that those of us who agree with extreme vetting would not want a byproduct of that to be that American Muslims are attacked or are treated badly, and this is why I think that discourse is important. I want to move on a little bit, and I want to ask you a little bit about. I would like to mention names, but I'm going to try not to. But there are some people that purport to represent the Muslim community, but really don't do so in a positive way. How do we counterbalance that? Because people are going to see those representatives and they're gonna, unfortunately, because it's a human trait, they're gonna generalize.
That's a difficult one, because you see that with any community, that there's always there's bad apples in every bunch, and it really takes responsibility on each and every person to kind of compare and contrast and look
Right.
on what they portray as, true Islamic teaching, or what they're portraying as representative of real Islam.
Right. Absolutely. I want to just. Sorry, Margaret, you were going to say something.
I was going to say, psychopaths come from anywhere and everywhere.
Don't we know
and,
it?
When we think about how many, psychopathic mass killings have happened just in the last 5 years, most of them were not perpetrated by Muslims in this country. And the other thing I wanted to mention was, does anybody ever think of The Tempest when we confront this problem? Shakespeare's The Tempest, because the character of Caliban in The Tempest was based on what people thought Native Americans would be like. And
right.
Of course, it was this, scary, over-the-top kind of, weird, wild character, and it was nowhere near the truth. And when you said that 50% of Americans don't even know a Muslim, it made me think of that, because we just sort of make up what a Muslim is, because we've never met one before.
Right.
Some of us, and it's just as silly as that character in The Tempest, which resembled nothing at all about a Native American at that time.
Sorry, if this is you're not going to get this if it's frozen, so I better type it in as well. If your screen is frozen, try refreshing the page. I don't have any control over what comes out your end because of Facebook. I want to talk for the last little segment about the actions in Syria with regards to the bombing of ISIS, and I want to get a little bit of a picture of how you feel about that. I was unsure to begin with, and then I saw people that were actually there, Syrian people, saying, thank you, someone's finally taking notice of the fact that we're being killed by our own leadership. What do you and your organization make of that action of bombing that ISIS stronghold, given that there were no civilian casualties that we know of?
A couple of weeks ago, the head of the Ahmadi Muslim community, the Caliph of Islam, Mirza Masroor Ahmed, spoke at the 14th annual peace seminar for the Ahmadi Muslim community, and he addressed the ongoing issue of violence in the area, and he expressed concern about the saber rattling that's been going on between between Russia and the NATO nations, which appears to be almost seems like it's escalating and hopefully does not come to a head at some point.
Absolutely.
But it's very concerning now that we're seeing that Russia is in support of one side in a civil war in that country, and now we're supporting another side in there, and both have troops present at the same time. So it's a very concerning situation, and we're very concerned about the escalation of the conflict. And the Caliph of Islam, Mirza Masroor Ahmed, had made very clear that he was very concerned, and he was calling upon Western nations to really control the arms trade within the region.
Right.
He made note of the vast expansion of arms sales, and we've seen that in reports to countries like Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, that the arms sales are in the tens of billions, approaching hundreds of billions, and in a country that already has 4 active conflicts, it does nothing but escalate the current conflicts. And we've seen with groups like ISIS that they've managed to stay alive on weapons that were never given directly to them,
Right.
but they were sold to them through third parties, and nearly all of them come from either United States, Russia, or China.
Right.
And so the mass proliferation of weaponry into the area is really allowing these conflicts to stay alive and escalate.
Right.
And so
Because
we'd
some
like to see more control and more, better judgment in selling weapons into those areas, and
Absolutely.
really try to curb it.
Absolutely, because some countries have more of an interest in the war in Syria continuing, and some have more interest in it actually ending. But if you don't want to answer this, that's absolutely fine. We'll still walk away friends at the end of this. But do you feel it was a good thing or a bad thing for America to bomb the ISIS stronghold?
The bombing that took place was not the ISIS stronghold, but the Syrian government's airfields, right? So that was it's concerning because it's escalating into areas that were not there before, and it puts more unknowns into the situation of the conflict. And really, I think that there needs to be more effort in pushing towards a diplomatic solution and resolving the issue rather than trying to escalate violence.
Absolutely, and in fairness, friends of mine that lived in Syria that actually managed to get out, thank God, were telling me even recently that this Bashar al-Assad was killing his own people, and that's a concern. For people that don't live there or don't know anybody that lives there, and then to term those people for objecting to being killed as rebels is even more alarming. We're coming to the end of our time together. I wish we could speak for longer because obviously there's so much dialogue required here. But tell people where they can find out more about your organization, Rasheed, and what they do.
Sure. I'd like to invite everyone to go to the website, thetrueislam.com, and there you can read the 11 points that we've illustrated to differentiate true Islam from extremism. And we invite you to register there as a Muslim ally in support of the initiative and against extremism and against Islamophobia at the same time.
Absolutely, and whilst we probably won't agree on every mute point. That isn't the point here, is it? The point is to have open dialogue and to be able to find some consensus in order to be able to facilitate furthering of bringing the community together.
Absolutely. We're not always going to agree on everything, but the point is to have that dialogue and come together and compromise and find a solution that works for everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. We are totally out of time. Thank you so much, Rasheed Reno from True Islam USA. Thank you so much. I hope you'll come and join us again.
All right. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks a lot, Rasheed. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. That was Rasheed Reno from True Islam. Make sure you go and have a look at their website. It's very interesting, and they actually do make some great points. We are well over time. Tell people where they can find you, Margret.
You can find me at margretecheverria.com. You can also find me at Jigsaw Venus on Twitter, and you can read my theater reviews at thefrontrowcenter.com.
Absolutely, and all of Margaret's contact information is on the XRAD Facebook show page for today. Margaret, once again, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure, and I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Me too.
Thanks a lot, Margaret. Take care. Lots of love.
Love to you too, darling.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
We are out of time. Thanks to everyone in the live feed. I'm sorry that you were having problems listening and watching. If you do have that in the future, try and click refresh. Unfortunately, you might need to update your phone or update your version of Facebook on your phone if you're watching on a phone. We hope you will join us again tomorrow night, where my co-host will be, my brain has just died, my co-host will be Andrea Kay, and our guest will be Julio Rivera. Thank you so much to everyone in the live feed. I really do love you all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Never known true love before.